Oh, what a glorious thing to be, a healthy, grown-up, busy, busy bee, whiling away the passing hours.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my workshop for this part 4 of the series about the manufacture of low profile rotary table. In this section I'll be doing a mock-up of the jig on the rotary table on the bench, see how it goes, and then transfer over to the mill and build up the table prior to milling the slots and the holes in the peripheral flange. Here we are over at the bench then. As you can see, this is the 100mm rotary table which I'm proposing to use for holding the plate for milling, and the base plate drilled in the previous sections. I've mounted the stub end of the arbor on the plate, and as you can see I've already inserted the T-nuts there roughly in position. I'm glad to say I got the orientation right, and the plate is secured to the rotary table by these 4 button head screws. I won't tighten them all up. In fact, I won't tighten any of them up completely, not at this stage, as I need a little bit of wriggle room to make sure that this is centered on the rotary table. However, let's snug them up for the moment and see how we get on. Not very good at the moment, that one won't line up. There we go. There we are. By a dint of magic and a little bit of hopefully slick editing, they're all nicely snugged, and it's time to put the table on. Let's see how we get on. Oh, that fits nicely on there. Toning washer and a nut. Now that is fairly securely held. I'm not sure that I'm going to need the 2 screws in there. Yes, I think I probably will. Just a bit of belt and braces, and I will clamp that in the vise and see how we get on. Clearance wise, mill the slots along the X and Y axis and the T-slots. Good. You join me back on the mill where I've put the rotary table in the vise, ensuring that I have sufficient travel in the Y direction to be able to mill all that I need to. I've centered the rotary table with the axial centering device, which I showed in an earlier portion of this series. I screwed the base plate to the rotary table with the 4 T-nuts, and I've used a combination of a DTI on the register here and a center in the center drill hole here to align the table so that that is centered. It's within about 3/4 to 1 degree, 1 thou off in each direction, which I consider is good enough for this purpose. Next up is the This is confusing having two rotary tables, but this is the rotary table blank, shall we call it. Made up a new washer, and that's held on with a 10mm nut. I'll do that up as tight as I dare. And that is pretty rigid, I have to say. I've decided that I will drill a hole here and one there and tap through the base to secure it to prevent any rotation of the table whilst it's being milled. And that'll be the next job, I think. I have, without labouring the point, of course, ensured that the DRO is been zeroed. So we'll go on with that drilling, and I'll come back in a minute. I'll stop just short of the 26mm mark on the DRO, and I'm winding the table back up because on the previous slot, when I ran the table out with the milling cutter still rotating, it formed a bit of a ridge, and I'm hoping to avoid that this time. So here we go. And this is the final clean-up cut. Winding back down to 9mm on the DRO. Just a smidgen under, however that'll do. Using the power feed on the mill to get a nice smooth run and hopefully finish. This will be the final depth for this slot. Just coming up to the end of the slot now. So I'll finish up my hand. Have a problem in that the chuck is hitting the retaining nut there, and I can't get the full travel that I require. So I'm going to have to draw the cutter out a little way. I finished milling that slot. Naturally I forgot to switch the camera on, so I didn't catch it. However, we'll go to the next one, which I'll do at the back. I don't have power feed on that axis, so I'm going to have to do it the old-fashioned hand cranking way. And here we go. Wind that back so it's on the y-axis, x-axis centre line I should say. Now bring that in. Touch off and re-zero the z-axis PRO. Just touching there. 0. Here we go. 4 mil. Right, well, I've got all 4 slots milled now, hopefully to the right depth and distance, and I'm now going to try milling out the T-slots. I don't have a T-slot cutter, but I do have a Woodruff key cutter. I've looked and looked and looked, but I can't find anything online that will give me a T-slot cutter 12mm diameter at anything like a sensible price. So I already have the Woodruff key cutter, and I'm going to try cutting in at a suitable depth and then dropping it down and taking the final cut. This is in fact an Imperial Woodruff cutter. It's half a mil, 12.7, half an inch I should say, 12.7mm diameter and 1/8 of an inch wide. However, obviously I can make suitable allowances for the depth, and the extra bit 0.7 on the diameter will give sufficient clearance for T-nuts. I'll just mount this in the chuck and we'll give it a go. I'll make this bit brief. I did one run with the Woodruff key cutter, pushed it a little bit too hard and managed to wipe all the teeth off. If you've ever seen a toothless Woodruff key cutter, you'll know what I mean. And there it is. Ladies and gentlemen, there will now be a brief, by which I mean about a week interlude, whilst I order and get delivered a new Woodruff key cutter. Probably 2. Well, that was a bit of a pain, wasn't it? I really did push it a bit too hard. So like I said, I'm going to have to order up some new Woodruff key cutters and learn by my mistakes, I suppose. So I'll finish this part of the video now, and I'll come back in about a week's time with another one. If you have been and still are watching, thank you. Catch you next time.